Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With today being the last day in March, I didn't want to pass up the opportunity to talk about Women's History Month, talk a little bit about why we have Women's History Month and the theme for this year. Women's History Month began just as a single day, a single International Women's Day, and later became an activity that was celebrated all around the world. It has its roots in the labor movement. Some of the earliest marches, these are in the early 1900s, one that took place on February 28, 1909, was to honor the one-year anniversary of the garment workers' strikes in New York that had taken place a year earlier, when thousands of women marched for economic rights and better workplace policies. Then they were rallying for equal rights and a 10-hour workday. Work in the U.S. continued, and in the 1970s, a group of educators started a Women's History Week, and that caught the attention of our national leaders. That led to President Jimmy Carter proclaiming the first Women's History Week in March of 1980. The proclamation for that had a quote from one of the advocates that said, "Women's history is women's right, an essential, indispensable heritage from which we can draw pride, comfort, courage, and long-range vision." President Reagan continued the tradition by passing further proclamations, and in 1987, Congress established Women's History Month. Now, presidents passed annual proclamations announcing Women's History Month, and the 2016 theme is working to form a more perfect union, honoring women in public service and government. So, Mr. Speaker, with that in mind, I just wanted to honor some of the women who have dedicated their lives in Alaska to public service. I'm thinking of people like former Representative Thelma Buckhold, who was the first Filipino-American legislator elected in the United States. Still the first and only female Filipino-American in the Alaska legislature as well, but had that distinction of being the first in the entire United States. Senator Betty Davis was the first African-American elected to the House and then also to the other body. She's now serving on the school board. My colleague mentioned Katie Hurley, one of the women of the Constitutional Convention, who's celebrating her 95th birthday. We have the women who were the leaders of this body and the other, former Representative Gail Phillips, and former Speaker Representative Gail Phillips, and also former Speaker Ramona Barnes. And in the other body, serving as president, Senator Drew Pierce, Senator Lyda Green, and I believe Senator Jan Fakes was also Senate president. We heard from Fran Almer in the gallery the other day, a former mayor, a former legislator, and former lieutenant governor. We have our former first female governor from Wasilla, who has brought a lot of attention to Alaska, Governor Sarah Palin. Former Senator Georgiana Lincoln, who is beloved by her constituents from the interior, who served many, many years in the other body. Former Representative Mary Sattler, who I remember reading about when I moved to Alaska in 1998, and she was just 26 years old, running, I believe, for her first time to be elected to the legislature. Wanted to honor the member from Juneau and her grandmother, Thelma Engstrom. She served in the 18th Alaska Territorial Legislature. And one of my all-time favorites, Mr. Speaker, Senator Arlis Sturgielewski, who at 89 is getting up there, one of our elders and senior stateswomen. She ran for governor before it was cool, running and winning her nomination in the Republican Party in 1986 and 1990. She served from 1979 to 1993 in the other body. And this year, Mr. Speaker, we saw two women running for the presidential nomination of their party. One still in that race. And last but not least, I want to honor the 17 women I have the honor of serving with in the 29th Alaska Legislature, 5 in the other body, and then the 12 plus me makes 13 in ours. 18 is actually a record, Mr. Speaker. This is the most women that have ever served in the Alaska Legislature. And come this time next year, I hope there'll be a new record. So I hope everyone will join me in remembering Women's History Month. Thank you.